The call came at 2 in the morning. Caroline Shaw woke to the sound of water dripping from her ceiling, a steady rhythm that pulled her from sleep into panic. She stumbled out of bed, flipped on the lights, and found her living room floor already pooling with water. The ceiling bowed ominously above her favorite reading chair. 3 calls to emergency plumbers went unanswered. The 4th led her to an app she had never used before, where a profile caught her eye. Marcus Webb, 5 stars across 200 reviews. Available 24/7. She sent a message, not expecting a response at this hour, but within minutes, headlights cut through the Seattle rain outside her Capitol Hill townhouse. When she opened the door, she found a tall black man in work clothes, rain dripping from his jacket. In his arms, sleeping against his shoulder, was a little girl no older than 8. Caroline stared at them both, and something inside her shifted before she even knew his name. Marcus apologized as he stepped inside, keeping his voice low so he would not wake his daughter. Her name was Imani, he explained, and his usual childcare did not cover emergency calls in the middle of the night. He had no choice but to bring her along. His voice carried no self-pity, only the practical resignation of a man who had learned to solve problems alone. Caroline nodded, still processing the image of this stranger who had arrived to save her home while carrying his own world on his shoulder. She led him to the source of the leak, and Marcus set to work immediately, his movements efficient and focused despite the hour. His hands moved with the confidence of someone who understood systems, who could diagnose problems by sound and touch. Imani stirred once, and Caroline found herself offering the couch, draping a throw blanket over the child without thinking. When Marcus glanced over and saw what she had done, something in his expression softened. A crack in the professional facade, revealing something warmer beneath. By 3 in the morning, Caroline sat at her kitchen island, listening to the sounds of Marcus working upstairs. She did not know why she felt compelled to stay awake, but sleep seemed impossible now. The rain had intensified outside, drumming against the windows like impatient fingers. Around 4, Imani woke, disoriented and frightened by the unfamiliar surroundings. Her small voice called out for her daddy, tinged with fear. Caroline knelt beside the couch before she could stop herself, speaking in a gentle tone she rarely used. She found a pad of paper and some colored pencils in her home office and offered them to the girl. Imani accepted with cautious curiosity, her dark eyes studying Caroline with the unfiltered assessment of childhood. Within minutes, she was drawing quietly, her fear replaced by concentration. When Marcus came downstairs and saw the scene, he paused in the doorway, his daughter, calm and content, being cared for by a woman he had just met. Caroline did not notice his gaze, but something passed between them in that moment, unspoken and significant. A bridge being built without either of them realizing it. The repair took until 5 in the morning. Marcus walked Caroline through what he had done, explaining the damage and the fix in terms she could understand. He pointed out the weak spots she should monitor, the signs of future problems to watch for. When he quoted his price, it was far lower than she expected. She questioned it, and he shrugged. "Emergency calls in the middle of the night," he said. "Single parents helping single parents." She told him she was not a single parent. He smiled slightly. "You stayed up all night with my daughter," he replied. "Close enough." Caroline insisted on paying more. Marcus refused, his pride gentle but unmovable. They stood in her foyer as the first gray light of Seattle morning crept through the windows, neither quite ready to end the conversation. Before he left, Imani tugged at his sleeve and whispered something. Marcus looked at the drawing pad still on the couch. She forgot to take it with her. Inside, Caroline would later discover a drawing of a woman with yellow hair, smiling. Underneath, in careful 8-year-old handwriting, were the words, "Nice lady." 3 days passed before Caroline found the drawing pad tucked between her couch cushions. She could have thrown it away. She could have forgotten about the whole night, filed it under strange experiences and moved on. Instead, she found herself searching for Marcus Webb's contact information and sending a message. She wanted to return it in person, she told herself. That was all. They agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Rainier Valley, a neighborhood Caroline had driven through but never visited. She arrived early, feeling out of place among the diverse crowd, the small businesses with signs in multiple languages, the easy rhythm of a community she had never been part of. When Marcus arrived with Imani, the little girl ran toward Caroline before her father could stop her. She clutched the drawing pad to her chest and beamed, her joy uncontainable. "You kept it safe," she said. Caroline felt something crack open inside her, a wall she had not known existed beginning to crumble. They talked for 2 hours. Marcus ordered coffee, black with no sugar. Caroline ordered tea she did not drink, letting it grow cold while she listened. Imani sat beside them, adding to her drawings while the adults circled around something neither wanted to name. Marcus told her about his wife, gone 4 years now. A car accident on I-5 during a late-night rain. He had been home with Imani, who was 4 at the time, when the call came. The police at his door, their faces professionally sympathetic. The hospital paperwork, the funeral arrangements made while his daughter kept asking when Mommy was coming home. Since then, it had been just the 2 of them. He spoke without self-pity, just facts, though Caroline could hear the weight beneath the words, the loneliness he did not name, the exhaustion he did not admit. He told her about the challenges of raising a black daughter in a world that would judge her before it knew her. About the conversations no parent should have to have, but every black parent must. About the time he was pulled over while driving Imani to school, 2 officers approaching his car with hands on their weapons because a black man in a nice neighborhood looked suspicious. Imani had watched from the back seat, confused and scared. "Daddy, what did you do wrong?" He still did not have an answer for her. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that some people will see her father as a threat simply because of the color of his skin? How do you protect her innocence while preparing her for a world that will not always see her humanity first? Caroline listened without interrupting. When he finished, she did not offer platitudes or sympathy. She simply said, "I am sorry you carry that, and I am sorry Imani has to learn these things so young." Marcus studied her for a long moment, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "Most people," he said, "either pretend it does not exist or make it about themselves. You just sat with it." Caroline shrugged. "I do not know what else to do, but I want to learn." Before they left, Imani pulled out a fresh drawing. She had been working on it while they talked, her tongue poking out in concentration. It showed 3 figures: a brown man, a brown girl, and a yellow-haired woman, all standing together under a rainbow. At the bottom, she had written the word family with a question mark. Marcus looked embarrassed and apologized. Caroline looked at the drawing and felt her throat tighten. "My house has a lot of problems," she said finally. "Old pipes, creaky floors. I could use someone to help with regular maintenance, and Imani is welcome any time. She has better art supplies at my place anyway." Marcus hesitated, but his daughter was already tugging his hand with both of hers. "Please, Daddy. She has the good crayons." The first Saturday arrived with Seattle's typical gray drizzle. Marcus pulled up to Caroline's townhouse at 9 in the morning, Imani bouncing in the back seat with barely contained excitement. Caroline had cleared space in her home office, setting up a corner with an easel, professional-grade colored pencils, and a stack of high-quality drawing paper. She had spent more on those supplies than she had on her own groceries for the month, but it felt right. When Imani saw it, she froze in the doorway. Her small body went completely still. "For me?" Caroline nodded. Imani threw her arms around Caroline's waist before racing to explore her new art station. Marcus watched from the hallway, something shifting behind his eyes. No one had ever done something like this for his daughter. No one had seen her as worth investing in. Caroline pretended not to notice his reaction, but she felt it land somewhere deep in her chest. The morning passed quickly. Marcus replaced a broken towel rack in the bathroom, while Imani drew, and Caroline answered work emails in the kitchen. Around 11, a knock came at the door. Caroline's neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, stood on the porch. She was a woman in her 60s, always impeccably dressed, always watching the street from her front window. Her eyes immediately found Marcus through the open door, tracking his movements with undisguised suspicion. "Everything all right in there?" the older woman asked, her voice carrying a note of concern that had nothing to do with concern. "You need anything? I could call someone." Caroline felt heat rise to her face. "I am fine, Mrs. Patterson. This is my friend Marcus. He is helping with some repairs." "Mrs." Patterson's expression flickered, her smile tightening. "Just wanted to make sure. You know you can always call me if you need help." "With anything." The emphasis was unmistakable. After the door closed, Caroline turned to find Marcus gathering his tools, his jaw tight. "I should go," he said. She blocked his path. "Do not let her run you out of my house. That is her problem, not yours." Marcus met her eyes. "You understand that if I stay, she will talk, and what she says will not be kind." Caroline held his gaze steadily. "Then let her talk. I do not care what she thinks. I care about you." They had lunch together, the three of them, at Caroline's kitchen table. Imani chattered about her drawings, about school, about her best friend Maya, who always shared her snacks. Marcus relaxed by degrees, the tension from Mrs. Patterson's visit fading as his daughter filled the room with warmth. Caroline asked Imani about her favorite subjects. Art, obviously, but also reading, because her teacher let her pick any book she wanted. Caroline asked what book she was reading now. Imani's face fell slightly. One of the boys asked why all the characters in her book had brown skin. He said it was weird. Why are they all the same color? Like it was wrong. Like she was wrong for choosing it. Marcus set down his fork. "What did you tell him?" Imani shrugged, her small shoulders carrying a weight no 8-year-old should know. Marcus reached over and took his daughter's hand. "You know what you say next time? You say, 'Because this is the most beautiful color in the world, just like me.'" Imani's face brightened. "That is what you always tell me. That is because it is always true." Caroline watched this exchange and felt something fundamental shift inside her. This man, this father, who navigated a world designed to diminish him and still taught his daughter to stand tall. She had never witnessed anything like it. After Imani returned to her drawings, Marcus and Caroline found themselves alone in the kitchen. He was fixing a loose cabinet hinge. She was pretending to organize her recycling. "What happened with your last relationship?" he asked suddenly. Caroline set down the bottle she was holding. 5 years, she said, with a man who looked perfect on paper. Same background, same career track, same expectations from both families. Everyone approved. Everyone thought we were ideal together. But he never actually saw me. He loved the idea of me. The architect, the career, the image. Never the woman underneath. I was lonely the entire time we were together, and I did not realize it until it was over. Marcus nodded slowly. "Sounds like you were performing a role instead of living a life." "Exactly." Caroline paused. "He never would have spent his Saturday fixing my cabinet. He would have hired someone and criticized the work. You fix things because you care about doing them right. That is different." Marcus finished the hinge and stood. "People often care about what they think they should care about," he said, "instead of what is actually in front of them." Their eyes met. Neither looked away. When Marcus left that evening, Imani hugged Caroline goodbye. A full embrace, no hesitation. Marcus watched his daughter, then looked at Caroline. "Same time next Saturday?" "Same time," she agreed. But as she closed the door behind them, she knew that Saturdays had already become something more than maintenance calls. The line between work and something else was blurring, and she was not sure she wanted to stop it. A month of Saturdays had passed when Caroline suggested dinner. Imani had been talking about her favorite foods, and Caroline impulsively offered to cook. Marcus hesitated, but Imani's excitement made the decision for him. That evening, Caroline prepared a meal for the first time in longer than she could remember. Pasta with homemade sauce, garlic bread, a salad Imani helped assemble. They ate at the dining table Caroline had bought 3 years ago and never used for an actual dinner party. The conversation flowed easily. Imani described her art class, her teacher who always wore funny earrings, her dream of having a dog someday. Marcus talked about a project he was working on, a Victorian restoration that required finding specialty materials. Caroline shared stories from her architecture firm, the impossible clients, the satisfying moments when a design finally clicked. It felt, she realized, like family, a word she had not associated with her own life in years. After dinner, Imani fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the excitement of a special evening. Marcus and Caroline carried their wine glasses to the back deck, where the Seattle skyline glittered through the evening mist. The city spread before them, beautiful and indifferent to their small moment of connection. Marcus spoke first. "What are we doing, Caroline?" She did not pretend to misunderstand. "I do not know, but I do not want to stop." He turned to face her. "I have a daughter. I am a black man. Your world will not welcome me." "Then maybe I need a different world." The words came out before she could second-guess them. Marcus studied her face, searching for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign that she did not mean what she said. "Do you understand what you are saying? Interracial relationships are hard enough. Add in class difference, your career, your family. People will make assumptions. They will judge you for being with me. They will judge me for being with you. Let them. I have spent my entire life meeting other people's expectations, marrying the right man, building the right career, living in the right neighborhood, and I was miserable. You make me feel something I have not felt in years. Maybe ever." "What is that?" "Seen." She paused. "You see me, Marcus, not the architect or the success or the society obligations. Just me." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. She did not pull away. They stood like that, hands intertwined, watching the city lights blur through the mist. Neither moved to kiss the other. Neither needed to. Something had been acknowledged that could not be taken back. The first sign of trouble came from Caroline's colleague, Rachel Thornton. Caroline's car had broken down after work, and Marcus offered to pick her up. It was an innocent gesture, practical and kind. But Rachel happened to be leaving the office at the same moment, and she saw everything. The truck, the man behind the wheel, the way Caroline smiled as she climbed into the passenger seat. By the next morning, the whispers had spread through every floor of the firm. Caroline heard them in the break room, caught the sidelong glances in meetings. Rachel confronted her directly over lunch. "You are dating your plumber? Seriously, Caroline?" "He is not my plumber," Caroline replied evenly. "He is a former construction engineer, a Navy veteran, a single father who served his country and now runs his own business. And yes, I am seeing him." Rachel's expression shifted to something between pity and judgment. "Caroline, you know what people will think." "What people, Rachel? Or what you think?" Rachel did not answer, which was answer enough. That afternoon, Caroline was called into her supervisor's office. David Chen had always been supportive of her work, but today his demeanor was different. Careful. Measured. He did not mention Marcus directly. Instead, he talked about the firm's image, the importance of professional relationships, the way personal choices could affect career trajectories. The message was clear even without explicit words. Caroline listened, nodded in the appropriate places, and felt something cold settle in her chest. After she left his office, she understood what had happened. Her firm, her colleagues, her professional world, they were not objecting to her dating someone. They were objecting to who she was dating, the color of his skin, the nature of his work, the assumption that someone like her should not be with someone like him. That evening, she told Marcus about both conversations. He listened without interruption, his expression growing more guarded with each word. "My sister warned me about this," he said when she finished. "About what?" "About whether you were serious, or whether I was just an experience for you before you went back to your real life." Caroline's heart dropped. "Is that what you think?" "I think you are the best thing that has happened to me in years. But Imani has already lost her mother. She cannot afford to lose anyone else. If you are not certain, tell me now." Caroline reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were architectural sketches, a house design she had been working on in secret for weeks. The layout included a master bedroom, a home office, a workshop space, and a room with large windows facing a garden, filled with natural light. Perfect for an artist. Marcus studied the drawings, his hands trembling slightly. "What is this?" "My answer," Caroline said. "I have been thinking about this for weeks. A house for us, all of us, with a room for Imani where she can draw and paint and create anything she wants. This is not a phase, Marcus. This is not an experiment. This is me choosing you, choosing her, choosing us." He looked at her for a long moment, and something in his guarded expression finally softened. "Then, I believe you," he said. The invitation to meet Marcus's family came 3 weeks later, Sunday dinner at his sister Denise's house in South Seattle. Caroline dressed carefully, nervous in a way she had not felt since her first job interview. Marcus picked her up with Imani, who spent the entire car ride explaining the family dynamics. Aunt Denise asks lots of questions. Uncle Terrell makes funny jokes, and Grandma Ruth makes the best mac and cheese in the whole world. Caroline filed away each detail, grateful for the preparation. The house was modest but warm, filled with family photos and the smell of home cooking. Denise opened the door, took one look at Caroline and said, "So you are the lawyer. Come in." The word lawyer carried a weight Caroline recognized. This family had been judging her long before she walked through the door. Dinner was delicious and tense in equal measure. Caroline complimented the food genuinely, answered questions about her work and her background, and tried not to feel like a defendant on trial. Denise was direct to the point of bluntness. "Have you ever dated a black man before?" "No." "Then, how do you know this is real? How do you know you are not just trying something new?" Caroline set down her fork. "I do not know the future, no one does. But I know that when Marcus walks into a room, I feel calm for the first time in years. I know that when Imani laughs, I feel hope. I know that I have never experienced anything like this with anyone else. If that is not love, then I do not know what love is." The table went quiet. Marcus's mother, Ruth, had not spoken much during the meal. Now she rose from her seat and walked to Caroline's end of the table. She was 72, with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. "You know what my son has been through? The way this world looks at him before it sees him? The way women have walked away when they realized dating a black man was harder than they thought?" Caroline met the older woman's gaze. "I am learning, and I am not walking away." Ruth studied her for a long moment, then she nodded once. "You speak plain. I respect that. But if you stay, you fight. Not for yourself. For him. For that little girl who already lost her mama. Can you do that?" "Yes," Caroline said. "I can." After dinner, Imani pulled Caroline into the backyard to show her a new drawing. This one depicted a large group of people. Some brown, some beige, all labeled with names Caroline was beginning to recognize. In the center stood 3 figures holding hands: Daddy, me, and a new addition, labeled with careful letters, Caroline. Ruth appeared beside her, following her gaze to the drawing. "That child has been waiting for someone to fill that space," Ruth said quietly. Her voice had softened from the confrontation at dinner. Do not make her wait for nothing. Caroline looked at the drawing, at the hope it represented, at the family that was slowly, cautiously accepting her. I would never hurt her intentionally, she said. Intentional or not, hurt happens. Just make sure the staying outweighs the leaving. Caroline nodded. It will, I promise. Caroline's parents lived in Bellevue, 30 minutes east of Seattle, in a neighborhood where the lawns were perfect and the neighbors were carefully selected. Judge William Shaw and Eleanor Shaw had raised Caroline to succeed, which meant private schools, proper connections, and strategic marriages. Her divorce 3 years ago had been a disappointment. Her current relationship, she suspected, would be something worse. She prepared Marcus and Imani as best she could. My father is formal. My mother worries about appearances. They may not be welcoming at first. Marcus took her hand. Imani, sensing the tension, had brought her drawing pad and was working on something in the back seat. When they pulled into the circular driveway of her parents' home, Caroline felt Marcus take a deep breath beside her. The door opened to reveal Eleanor Shaw in a cream-colored sweater and pearls, her smile perfectly practiced. William Shaw stood behind her in a cardigan and pressed slacks, looking like he had just stepped off a yacht. His handshake to Marcus was brief, almost dismissive. His eyes slid past Imani as if she were furniture. "Hello," he said, without warmth. They moved to the formal living room, where everything was designed to impress and nothing was designed for comfort. Imani sat on the edge of a sofa that cost more than Marcus's truck, her drawing pad clutched in her lap like a shield. Eleanor offered refreshments in a voice that suggested she hoped they would decline. Dinner was served by staff Caroline had not seen since childhood. Her parents had hired caterers, she realized, rather than cook themselves. The message was clear. This was not a family meal. This was an evaluation. William dominated the conversation, asking Marcus questions that sounded polite but carried sharp edges. What exactly does a handyman do? How does one support a family on that income? What are your long-term financial plans? Marcus answered each question with dignity, refusing to be diminished. He spoke about his Navy service, his construction background, his business growth, but William's expression never changed. He was not listening to answers. He was cataloging objections. Halfway through dinner, Imani reached for her water glass and knocked it over, spilling across the white tablecloth. Eleanor sighed audibly. Caroline moved to help, but her father spoke first. Perhaps the child would be more comfortable elsewhere. Caroline felt something snap inside her. "The child has a name," she said. "Her name is Imani, and she is more welcome at this table than the attitudes I am hearing." William's face hardened. "Caroline, I think we need to speak privately." They stood in her father's study, surrounded by law books and framed commendations. William wasted no time. "What are you doing with your life?" "A handyman, a black handyman with a child. Do you have any idea what people will say?" "What people, Dad? Or what you will say?" "I am saying this because I love you. This relationship will damage your career, your reputation, everything we have built for you. And now I'm building something that actually makes me happy." William's voice rose. "Happy? You think happiness matters more than stability? More than compatibility? More than the reality of what this world thinks about relationships like this?" "I do." She turned toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. When you referred to Imani earlier, you called her the child. Not your granddaughter. Not Imani. The child." She faced her father directly. "If I continue this relationship, which I will, that little girl will be your granddaughter. Figure out whether you can accept that, because if you cannot, you will lose me too." William's final words followed her down the hallway. "If you do this, do not expect our support. Financial or otherwise. That child will never be my granddaughter." Caroline did not respond. She collected Marcus and Imani, thanking Eleanor with cold politeness, and walked out of her childhood home. In the car, Imani's small voice broke the silence. The grandpa and grandma did not like me, did they? Caroline turned in her seat, meeting the little girl's eyes. They do not know you yet, sweetheart. But I know you, your daddy knows you, and you are the most wonderful person I have ever met. Marcus reached over and took Caroline's hand. She held on tight as they drove away from Bellevue, away from her parents' expectations, and toward something that felt, for the first time in her life, like home. 1 week after the disaster at her parents' house, Caroline submitted a request for a 3-month leave of absence from her firm. The partners were surprised but approved it, perhaps relieved to have the situation resolve itself. She met Marcus at a coffee shop near his neighborhood, carrying a business plan she had been developing in secret. Her proposal was simple: use her savings to expand his handyman service into a full design-build company. She would handle architecture, business development, and legal compliance. He would handle construction, project management, and client relationships. 50-50 partners, equal investment, equal ownership, equal say. Marcus listened to the presentation, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he shook his head. I do not need you to save me, Caroline. I am not saving you. I am investing in us, in what we can build together. He was quiet for a long moment. Do you understand what happens when this succeeds? When articles get written about a successful design-build company, people will say I rode your coattails, that I could not have done it without a white woman with money and connections. They will not see what I built with my own hands. They will not see my years of experience, my skills, my vision. Then we prove them wrong, not with words, with results. Every project we complete, every client we serve, every employee we hire, we show them what we are capable of together. Marcus studied her face. There is one condition. Name it. Imani comes first, always. If the business ever interferes with her well-being, we adjust. No exceptions. Caroline nodded. Imani always comes first. Agreed. They shook hands across the table, a formal gesture that felt almost silly given everything they had shared. Then Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen since the Bellevue dinner. There is one more thing. Caroline waited. That night, after we fix everything for your parents, I want to ask you something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out nothing. No ring, no box, just his empty hand. I cannot afford a ring right now. But I want you to know my intention. When we make our first real profit, I will buy you something beautiful. Until then, I am asking with just my word. Will you marry me? Caroline laughed, surprising herself. The laughter broke something loose in her chest, releasing tension she had not known she was carrying. She took his empty hand in both of hers. Yes, she said, with or without the ring. Yes. 12 months passed. Webb and Shaw Design Build opened its first office in a converted warehouse in South Seattle. The company specialized in residential renovation, with a focus on accessibility modifications for elderly and disabled homeowners. They employed 5 people, most from underrepresented communities, all with skills that traditional contractors often overlooked. Caroline had found her purpose, not in prestigious architecture firms designing buildings for wealthy clients, but in creating spaces that changed ordinary lives. A ramp that let an elderly woman stay in her home of 40 years. A modified bathroom that gave a veteran his independence back. A kitchen redesign that allowed a mother in a wheelchair to cook for her children. Each project felt meaningful in a way her corporate work never had. The business faced challenges. Some clients, upon learning Marcus was an owner rather than an employee, found reasons to cancel contracts. One man, viewing their portfolio, said he had assumed Shaw was in charge. When Caroline explained they were equal partners, his face changed. He walked out without another word. She handled it professionally, reminding him of their binding contract, but the interaction left a mark. Later that evening, she told Marcus what had happened. He nodded slowly, unsurprised. "Welcome to my world," he said. But the next morning, Ruth called. Caroline picked up expecting casual conversation and heard something different in the older woman's voice. "Daughter," she said. That word, spoken by Marcus's mother for the first time. "Thank you." "For what?" "For standing beside my son, for not running when it got hard. I was wrong to doubt you. I see that now." Caroline felt tears prick her eyes. "I am not going anywhere, Mama Ruth." "I know. That is why I am calling you daughter." 3 months later, Eleanor Shaw reached out. A cautious text, then a phone call. She wanted to meet Imani, to try again. Caroline agreed, but with conditions. "If you meet her, you meet all of us. Marcus, Imani, and me. We are a package deal," Eleanor accepted. The meeting was awkward at first, held at a neutral restaurant where the tables were spaced far apart. But Imani, with her endless warmth, broke through Eleanor's reserve within minutes. She showed her grandmother the drawings she had made, the projects she was working on, the picture of the family she hoped to have someday. By the end of the meal, Eleanor was asking about Imani's favorite subjects, her friends at school, her dreams for the future. William did not attend, but Eleanor, leaving the restaurant, hugged Caroline for the first time in years. "He reads every article about your company," she whispered. "He keeps them in his desk. He is proud of you, even if he cannot say it." Caroline did not know if that was true, but she chose to believe it might be. 3 years after a pipe burst in Caroline Shaw's ceiling, she stood in the kitchen of the home she and Marcus had designed together. It had taken 2 years to build, working nights and weekends around their growing company. The result was everything she had imagined and more. A workshop for Marcus filled with carefully organized tools, an office for Caroline overlooking their small backyard, and for Imani, now 11 years old, a sunlit studio with windows on 3 sides, filled with art supplies and the evidence of a child who had been given room to flourish. Webb and Shaw Design Build had grown to 12 employees and 2 office locations. They had won a community service award for their accessibility work and been featured in a regional business magazine. The article focused on their partnership, the way 2 people from different backgrounds had combined their skills to create something neither could have built alone. Marcus had framed it, though he pretended the recognition did not matter. Caroline knew better. The formal wedding had happened 1 year ago, a small ceremony in Ruth's backyard. Denise stood as maid of honor. Marcus's best friend Terrell served as best man. Imani, in a dress she had picked herself, scattered flower petals with the solemnity of someone given an important job. Eleanor attended, surprising everyone, including herself. She sat in the second row and cried quietly through the vows. William did not come, but he sent a letter, handwritten on his personal stationery, addressing Marcus by name for the first time. "Take care of my daughter," he wrote. "She has always been stronger than I gave her credit for." The morning of their 3rd anniversary of meeting, Caroline woke to the smell of something burning. She found Marcus and Imani in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. Pancakes, apparently, though the results looked more like abstract art. The smoke alarm had been disabled. Flour covered the counter. Imani was laughing so hard she could barely stand. Caroline leaned against the doorframe and watched them. These 2 people, who had become her whole world. Marcus caught her eye and shrugged apologetically. "We wanted to surprise you." "Consider me surprised," she said. Imani ran to her, still giggling. "I made the batter. Daddy made the mess." "Hey," Marcus protested. "I am doing my best." "Your best involves a fire extinguisher?" "Not yet. But we are close." After breakfast, which they salvaged with takeout from a nearby cafe, Imani brought out something she had been hiding. A drawing pad, not the one she had left behind 3 years ago, though that one still sat on Caroline's bookshelf, a memento of how everything began. This was a new pad, filled with 3 years of drawings documenting their journey. The early sketches showed 3 figures, tentative and hopeful. The later ones showed a house being built, then a wedding, then a family portrait with all of them together. On the final page, Imani had written something in careful letters, her handwriting much improved from the 8-year-old scrawl of their first meeting. She had drawn the word family, but this time there was no question mark, just a period, a statement of fact. Marcus put his arm around Caroline as they looked at the drawings together. "You hired me for one night," he said, "to fix a pipe. Look what happened." Caroline leaned into him. "You did not just fix my house. You built me a life. We built it together." Imani squeezed between them, demanding to be part of the embrace. "I helped too. I drew all the plans." "You did," Caroline agreed. "You are our best designer." Outside, Seattle's gray morning was brightening into something warmer. Inside, 3 people stood in a kitchen they had created together, covered in flour and surrounded by evidence of a life they had chosen against all expectations. They had faced judgment and overcome doubt. They had built a company, a home, a family, not in spite of their differences, but because of them. Caroline thought about the woman she had been 3 years ago, successful but empty, surrounded by the right people but profoundly alone, measuring her life by achievements that left her hollow. That woman would not recognize who she had become. A wife, a stepmother in every way that mattered, a partner in business and in life, someone who had learned that the right person could appear at the worst possible moment and change everything. That love did not require permission from society or approval from family. That home was not a place but a choice, made daily, to show up for the people who showed up for you. Marcus kissed the top of her head. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything," she said. "And nothing. Just grateful." "For what?" "For a broken pipe at 2 in the morning. For a little girl who left her drawing pad behind. For a man who showed me what actually matters." Imani tugged at both of them. "Can we have more pancakes?" The ones Daddy made were gross. They laughed together, the 3 of them, in the home they had built from nothing but courage and commitment. Outside, the world continued with all its judgments and complications. Inside, none of that could touch them, because they had proven, through 3 years of choosing each other, that love was stronger than prejudice. That partnership could bridge any gap. That family was not defined by blood or background, but by the daily decision to stay. And they had chosen, all 3 of them, to stay.